There are a bunch of exciting streaming options coming out this week, and I'm going to start off with First Cow, which I don't quite know how to describe this film. It's a portrait, it's a story, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's for everyone. It's certainly a little more art house than, mainstream, but I think it's worth expanding your horizons and taking a look at. It's from director Kelly Reichardt, who did this film I loved called Wendy and Lucy, and it's contained. I feel like the best way to describe it is contained. It's not necessarily one of these huge sweeping stories. It's just, it laser focuses in on a dynamic and takes it from there. It takes place in the 19th century in the Pacific Northwest, and it's around, kind of these trappers and people living this tougher life, and it focuses on this dynamic between a guy who's a cook or like a baker basically, and then a Chinese immigrant, and it just follows them around. And there is a cow. It is not a metaphorical cow. It's an actual cow. And I don't know. I was enamored of their story. It's a 2-hour film, and I didn't feel like it was slow at all. I was just like, by the end, I was like, I don't know where this is going. And usually when I ask that question or have that feeling, it's in a bad way. In this, I was like, almost any surprise could hit me, and I would feel like it had been justified, short of like aliens showing up at the end. I was like, there are so many ways for this film to end, and I am on board with all of those. And I love that it's actually successfully doing that. I highly recommend you watch the trailer first, and if that gives you kind of the vibe of the film and you're like, okay, you know what, I'd be interested in this, then definitely check it out. If you watch the trailer and go, oh no, this is not for me, then I don't think you'll actually like the film. And I think in that, sometimes trailers are really deceptive, but this is one of those things where it gives you a sense of the feeling of it, and this is a very feeling-oriented movie. I personally am going to give it 4.1 out of 5. Next up, I have Palm Springs, and I know there are going to be a lot of comparisons made, but it's a kind of Groundhog Day-esque film. It takes place in Palm Springs, and it stars Andy Samberg as a character named Niles, and he is basically stuck in a time loop and living over and over. He's at a wedding, and he just keeps living that day over and over. It's not his wedding. He's just at a wedding, and he lives that day over and over. And then the maid of honor, played by Cristin Milioti, who I will only probably forever know as the mother from How I Met Your Mother. Sorry, spoilers for that, whatever. She gets sucked into the time loop too. J.K. Simmons is in it, who is just fantastic at it. Like, he just shows up every once in a while. Oh my God, when he showed up, it was just such random highlights of the film. Look, this is a movie about being trapped in an endless time loop, right? This is something that we are all experiencing aggressively right now. And I feel like there was the possibility for this to feel really painful. And it was not. It was funny, and it was actually a distraction and enjoyable. And I think the dynamic between the two stars they have a good chemistry. It's such an annoying thing to say, but they do. Like, sometimes, you can tell when people have chemistry, and you're just like, I am rooting for these people. They are highly flawed characters, but they are enjoyable to watch. I think one of the moments that kind of poked home a little bit, if you have all this time, like, why did you not bother to learn a skill or do whatever? And I was just like, you know what? It's okay to just exist. And I feel like the movie also allows for that. It's charming. It's charming. It's enjoyable. I got a good laugh out of it. The Lonely Island technically produced it as well, and it's not like Popstar, right? This is more subdued. There's still totally elements of humor to it, but it's not going to be the crazy, zany. I mean, it's definitely existential, but it's not necessarily going to be, it's not Dick in a Box. It's not like Lazy Sunday. It is a more probably refined version of those sensibilities. So I really enjoyed it as well. Like, I've been struggling a lot with all the streaming stuff. It's been hard to have highlights during the summer, and between First Cow and Palm Springs, like, I'm refreshed by these films. They are good films to watch right now. They're very different films, but they're good films to watch right now. So I'm also going to give Palm Springs 4.1 out of 5. And the final film I want to draw your attention to is not necessarily a review. I just want to point it out. It's called Mucho Mucho Amor, The Legend of Walter Mercado. And I did not know who Walter Mercado was. In fact, my most recent introduction to that person was on RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars with Snatch Game of Love. And somebody picked this character. And the only reason I was vaguely aware when watching RuPaul is because I knew this documentary was coming out. And it is a documentary. And Walter Mercado was basically an astrologer personality. He's from Puerto Rico, and I guess, I wasn't aware, but just had such a massive reach for a very long span of time and had a very flamboyant visual style. And, if you look at Walter Mercado, they have a very androgynous look. And this is, 30 years ago before that was necessarily like a mainstream and norm, and they owned it. And also bringing Spanish language entertainment and news to an international audience. Again, it was all just kind of before my time, but it's just fascinating to watch. And Walter Mercado is just a one of those personalities who is absolutely magnetic to watch, and you see them come alive on screen. So the documentary it was just really interesting, and I feel like I learned a lot about this person in particular. There's a fun cameo from like Lin-Manuel Miranda. Eugenio Derbez shows up, who's such a superstar. It's just like the reach that this person has is clearly very far, and if you weren't familiar, this is a really cool way to just kind of discover the legend of Walter Mercado. So it's on Netflix, it's streaming. I think it's worth checking out. It's a good week for film.